Hello there. Let me get a couple of technical things out of the way for just a minute. Let me wave to you. There's always a little bit of a delay when a Facebook live stream starts. So let's see. I was going to see if I could actually get things to work properly with technology. And it's not going to, so that's okay. So hello, dear one. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to know, how does that feel to be called dear one? You know, the first time someone called me that, it was my meditation teacher, and it really felt like a big hug that I had been yearning for. And yet, it wasn't always that way. It wouldn't have been something that I would have been comfortable even hearing. So, just wanted to touch base with you on that before we get started. If you are here live, please say hello. The comments are a little crazy on Facebook Live. Please do say hello and let me know where you're joining from, and I will say hello back to you if I can see the comment. And if you're watching replay, please type in #replay. Let me know you were here, where you're watching from, and I'll pop in the comments later and say hello. So welcome to tonight's mini training. It has been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm really excited to be here with you tonight. And the training is called Women Failing in Romantic Relationships, and here's what I've learned. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to think about a little bit of what I'm telling in my story. Excuse me just a second. There we go. I'm going to try to share this out to my personal page. There we go. So let's get started. So tonight's training, again, mini training, is on women failing in romantic relationships, and here's what I've learned. So this is a little backstory. I'm very transparent, and I teach from my experiences. And one of the things I want you to know is that I love men. I mean, I really, really do. It started very early in my life. I probably loved them from the time I was a little girl. I was definitely the boy crazy girl. And I loved them so much that I would get into one relationship after another, after another, after another. Yes. Are you starting to get a clue so far? This may feel familiar to you, or you may think, oh, that's, I've never experienced that. If you haven't experienced it, this training may not help you. But I'm giving you kind of an overview of what I've done and what I've seen a lot of other women do. When I was young, I had two little boys that I absolutely adored, and I'd have one holding one hand and one holding the other hand, and I just, away we would go. I had this vision of Catherine Ross and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I had these amazing, good-looking men around me, and that was just kind of my jam. So fast forward, I have been through 3 failed marriages, 4 live-in relationships, and many that didn't make the cut. Well, that's a lot to acknowledge on a live stream. So all of that to say, you are in good company. If you've been where I am, where I've been, I want you to cut yourself a break, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about what's really going on here, all right? You may have been someone who really liked the bad boys. That was me. Liked the bad boys, whatever that means, addictions, no job, infidelity, whatever. Once upon a time, then I picked somebody. I thought, all right, I'm going to raise the bar here. And I picked someone that had a really master's level education, a good job. I was like, okay, I'm getting better now. I'm going to do this. And it turned out That one was maybe even a little more of a bad boy than all the rest of them combined. Well, what do you do with that? It's like, I can't get this right. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So, I am Tammy Coyne. I am a childhood trauma transformation coach for adults. And I have been there and I have done that and lived to tell you what not to do, what to do, and what's creating the issues for you. So let me tell you what it's not. It's not about your weight. It's not. It's not about your looks. It's not. It's not about your age. It's not. It's not that all men suck, because they don't. It's not. It's not that all the good ones are married or gay. It's not. So what is it then? Well, if you're someone like me, I believed my picker was broken. I had a broken picker because I just didn't know how to pick them. And maybe my radar was wrong. Like I didn't even know how. I was told one time, if there was a bum within 50 miles, they would find me. Now, there's been a lot of road that I've walked down, and I want to tell you that if you have trouble in relationships, there's a reason. Are you picking projects? Are you there to try to fix people? Try to find people to fix? Sometimes we don't admit it, but sometimes that's what we do. That's a problem. How about your anger and your rage? Is it showing up in your relationships? That's a clue. What about codependency? Is that showing up? Also a clue. All of these things are problematic. So, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I'll tell you. It took me a long, long time to figure out what was creating the issues for me and for all of the women like me. And it starts in your childhood. Not kidding. That's where it starts. I know it seems like it's happening right now, and it is, but that's where it starts. And I'll tell you how I figured this out. I finally met the one I believe to be the one I love with all of my heart, the one I believe to be the one, and the one I believed would never leave me until he did. That had me facing all of the unhealed, undone stuff. No matter how much work I had done, I still had all of this undone stuff. I used to throw it on the pile. I used to sweep it under the rug. I even went through 30 years of counseling, and I could not figure out what is the problem. Like, I must really be not good at this. When he left, I decided to do things differently. And I really started untangling and unboxing some of the things that I didn't want to address, that I didn't want to look at. I had been to relationship groups. In fact, I met him at one. So many things. So what is it? Well, in childhood, there are things that happen that stick with you. Some of it's real live trauma, like big T kind of trauma. Sometimes it's abuse, and those things play an absolute factor in your relationships. Sometimes it's what I call little t trauma that some people may not even see as trauma, but it was traumatic for you. So what happens is, and it could even not even be at home, could be, at the neighbor's house or at school or from TV. We get these ideas locked into our subconscious about who we are or who we're not, how we're showing up. Are we good enough? Are we not good enough? We have these certain standards. We have these certain parts of ourselves that get locked away. And then we pick these relationships based on this fragmented part of ourselves. We get into the relationship, and that starts bringing all the other parts of us out. And usually we start picking on them. We pick on who they are. We can't hardly look at who we are. We pick on who they are, what they're not doing, what they're not bringing to the table. We talk about all that we're doing. We talk about how much we've accomplished, and they're not pulling their weight. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. You see, we have internally something that's referred to as your water level. And the water level really is simply your level of worth. The level of worth you have inside. That causes you to energetically connect to people who are at that same water level, so to speak. And you begin to have a relationship. And usually what happens is you've got some trauma, they've got some trauma, and you get together, and then everything goes crazy. It feels really good at first, then it goes nuts. Have you experienced that? Do you know what I'm talking about? I know I'm not the only one, because I've talked to too many people going through this. Actually, the men go through it too. It's a little different for them than us, but still kind of the same. So we get these ideas locked into our subconscious about who we are, what we deserve, what we're worth, and we put up with things that we feel like we shouldn't be putting up with. Well, should's a problem, first of all. However, we make these choices. And then if we let them off the hook, then we start beating ourselves up for it. So what's really the deal? How do we do this? Well, it's about unboxing you. It's about knowing who you are. And you can't know who you are until you've begun to explore who you are. Figure out who you are. Figure out what you want. Figure out what you don't want. Start to understand that every time you're angry at this person is to really learn how to see that in a way that helps you understand where the anger is coming from. Here's a hint. It looks like it's because of the current circumstance. It's really coming from something in your subconscious. Something that has you beating yourself up. Something that has you seeing another person as perfect or imperfect or not perfect enough, or there's all kinds of things unique to you, unique to you, unique to your experiences, unique to everything that you've been through. And until you start to peel the layers and figure out who you are, what you need, what self-care is about, what self-love is about, it is nearly impossible, and I'm going to say nearly, I'm not going to say entirely, nearly impossible to attract the kind of relationship that you actually want. Now, the dysfunction pool is huge. You can jump into that anytime you want and pick up a relationship. It's going to end the same way. The more you raise your standards, and I'm not saying standards as in someone is above another person. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about energetic standards. I'm talking about what you will and will not tolerate for your life purpose from yourself or from anyone else. When my husband left, when he left, it caused me to face all of my fears of abandonment, all of my fears of rejection, all these feelings where I began to question every part of who I was. My life became ripped apart. So I made a decision that it was time. I would not date. I became celibate. And not that I advocate you doing that or that that's the only way to do it. But what I'm telling you is that what I've done here has allowed me to really get really clear on who I am, really get clear on all the parts of me, the depth of who I am. And if I choose to return to another partnership, it will be a partnership that is up-leveled. It will be a partnership with someone who has done the work like I have. It will be someone who knows how to navigate life in a conscious, peaceful, loving, dynamic sort of way that isn't full of drama and stress and all of the baggage that's unhealed. Because that's really where the problem is. Everybody blames the other person or they blame themselves, and really, there's no blame here, honey. There's none. It is about understanding. It is about self-love, self-compassion, self-awareness, self-discovery, and eventually self-mastery. And when you get those things figured out, now I'm not saying you can't, have a relationship while you're doing that. Understand though, if the relationship person is not growing at the rate you're growing, you may leave the relationship or the relationship may leave you. So understand that this is an educational journey for yourself. It's a wisdom journey to learn who you are, what you need, and how to go about it. It's like climbing a ladder, and if you're up here on the 10th rung and you're reaching down and the person is still on step 1, it's not a really good match, which is exactly what I was doing, because I was on a 10 in some areas, but I was way down at a 1 in other areas. And so I would come down and get them, and then I would become, all kinds of things that caused problems in my relationships. I was constantly angry. I felt like a mother more than a partner. And I created so many problems in my relationships that I knew that I had to stop and say, what can I do for me? What can I do for me to fix this? So what can you do for you to fix this? It is important that you learn to unbox your authentic self, and that means we really can together peel those layers back and figure out where you're actually getting tangled up and cannot move forward. How to create the boundaries you need for yourself so that you create boundaries with yourself and with other people. So, So failed romantic relationships honestly have to do with not being able to really identify who you are, what you need, and what you really, really want for your life. Oftentimes we say things like, I just want to be happy, but we don't actually define it. We say, I just want to feel peaceful on the inside, but we have no idea how to do that. So, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing any comments, and if you want to dive into this a little deeper with me, I would invite you to book a consultation with me. I've got one that's called Break Me Out, and it is a Break Me Out of the Box Breakthrough Consultation. It's a free service to help you start to figure out what the next steps are so that you can start to create better relationships with yourself and with your potential partner. So thank you so much for watching. This is Tammy Coyne coming to you live from, I'm actually coming to you live from home, but Life Transformation Center in Moore, Oklahoma. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.